So, Cam, this is where it's good to be the you in terms of location. So if we're talking about the recruiting woes and the recent struggles of Nebraska, I'll point them out in particular. It's we're losing football games and we don't have football players around us. We've got a heavy lift. It's good to be located where you are.
Yeah, and it's funny because Nebraska, to address the issue of lack of talent, came down to Miami or South Florida to get a couple of guys, Jaden Francois, who should have picked Miami, and that he did it to himself. Henry Gray, who was committed to Miami, my former personal student when I taught at Miramar before he transferred to Miami Central, and a couple other guys to go up there. Gray and Francois have both since transferred out of Nebraska. But yeah, you know, it's an interesting kind of a thing. But yeah, I mean, look, we got more players down here that you can shake a stick at. You know, and even guys who were 3 stars, not saying that they would be a 5-star anywhere else, but, you know, a guy like D. Wiggins, you know, played pretty well, had a touchdown against Florida State to open that game up, you know, things like that. Mike Harley was a 3-star from down here, Fort Lauderdale, St. Thomas Aquinas. You got guys from down here. Danny Isadora years ago. Yeah, he was a 5-year player at offensive line. Jonathan Feliciano from Western High School. Isadora went to Cypress Bay at the time. You got plenty of guys who are not necessarily going to be 5 stars, but they can play at this level and they can be, you know, good rotation level, starting level players down the line. Maybe not a year 1 or a year 2, but as a redshirt sophomore in their 3rd year and things like that, they can finally get there. Hey, it took him 5 years, but Robert Knowles, and you know, if you've been following, look, when he had to play in year 3 and 4 for him, it was not great. And I was very critical. But in year 5, everyone's like, oh, yeah, Knowles this, Knowles that. Go back and watch that film. He actually played pretty well. It just took him a while to get to that level. And he was a 3-star. You know what I mean? And he was forced into maybe a little bit of a bigger role too early for what his skill set was. But he's a guy who last year, seriously, go back and look. And I did my darndest to tweet it out every single time because I had been so vocally critical previously. When he started doing the job to the level that was required, I try to say, hey, Robert Knowles made this play. Robert Knowles made this play. So even if you get 3 stars, they can be part of the roster. But yeah, I mean, a guy from Miami, Edison. You know, not many top recruits come from Edison. But yeah, like you're talking about, there are many places where that Miami can go and look for Miami level caliber talent in the South Florida area, even if it's a school that you don't know of.
So I always, in situations like this, try to figure out what the formula is or what it should be. Meaning, Miami's in a location that is in the top, maybe the very best recruiting ground in the country.
Yeah, the top number 1.
Okay. Can that be played out? Proven? I'm not challenging you. I'm just stating. Obviously, I'm in the place that I am. I mean,
Fort Lauderdale and Miami regionally, I think we're number 1 and 2 in terms of draft picks and NFL players currently between those 2 counties. And those are the neighboring counties right next door to, one of them houses the University of Miami and the other one's the next door county north where I live. So, I mean, yeah.
Okay. So the formula in regards to what percentage of those guys do you need to get to be perennial conference championship contenders and then into the playoff and to be where you want to be? I mean, obviously you're not going to get all of them. LSU and Ohio State and all the rest of the schools are going to come down there and get some type of share, but obviously you're going to need to do better and are starting to do better than you have done.
Right. I mean, it's really the thing for me is it's not about the percentage overall. It's about the percentage at the top, because Miami's always had a high percentage overall from, you know, the Tri-County area going, you know, West Palm, shout out to Kev, Broward and Dade. You're going to have a high percentage of players coming from that Tri-County area. It's about getting the cream of the crop. And that's where the issue comes. So I think that we need to be do better and stronger in that pursuit. And I think by getting some of these guys that we've gotten recently, gee willikers, okay.
I can hear that.
I know.
I usually don't hear anything.
They're trimming the hedges right here. Like they just started the lawn guys and everything. So, hey, it happens. But yeah, getting a higher percentage of the top guys, the guys that you need, especially when they play a position where the positional value and the scarcity of prospects is high or is low. So if you're talking about, again, offensive line. You know, you lose the Dumerville kid, Elvis Dumerville's cousin Marcus, to LSU. The Martinez kid who also went to St. Thomas, he goes to LSU. You lose Marcus Tate this year to Clemson. You lost Isaiah Walker to Florida, but he came to his senses and transferred since to Miami. You know, you have those guys at offensive line, and there's few and far between. Again, I named all 4 of them in the last 2 years. You cannot go 0 for 4. You cannot miss on every single available blue chip talent at that position locally just because it's so scarce, especially when you got guys who can play tackle like Dumerville and Walker and Tate. That's really tough when you see that. Wide receivers, do you want to lose them? No. But then you lose Calvin Ridley. You know, you lose Amari Cooper. You lose, like Jerry Jeudy. So it's not even like, okay, well, just a guy. No, I lose a transcendent guy. You know what I mean? And it's really just doing more to get a share of some of those guys. And I think it seems to be in this class and the last couple of classes, we're going in that direction. So it's really, locking down or locking in more guys at the top.
And that's what I was alluding to when I asked the question and talked about the formula, because it's the Wisconsins and Nebraskas, and I'm trying to think of what other schools in particular. It's really everyone that comes down and grabs the top 80 players in the state type range. But it's the programs that we all know that are competing for playoff spots every year that are coming down and grabbing the top 5 and top 10 guys.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. You cannot go 0 for 10, with your top guys. Or if you're talking about, in just, the Tri-County area, whatever you want to rank those top 10 players as. You cannot go 0 for 10. 3 or 4 for 10 is pretty good. You know what I mean? 5 or more, hey, we're cooking with grease, and that's where we are now. So it just, you can't let everybody else come and just get the gourmet ingredients. You know what I mean? You just can't get the best of the best and see them all go, and then you get good, but you still need guys to make plays. Even on, for example, Florida State, 2013-14. Dalvin Cook. Miami Central Senior High School, they were going to lose some games. They were going to lose games to Miami. But you had this one guy who was of this superior caliber, and he himself, because he's so much better, made the plays that they needed to make to win these games. So even though you have a Joseph Yearby who played with Dalvin Cook and everything, his ceiling was limited. And look, I said that Joe Yearby was a better running back coming out of high school than was Dalvin Cook. And I believe that. But I also said that Dalvin Cook was a better athlete. And if he was able to develop as a running back, then he would obviously surpass that. I didn't think that was going to happen in a game and a half and one fall practice. I did not think that was going to happen, because when he was at Miami Central, to be perfectly honest, it was, I'm going to hit a crease, and if I can, I'm going to fire the sideline, and I'm faster than you. And that's what his role in that offense was. But Dalvin Cook proved to be a transcendent player. That's one guy, So even though you could have a lot of good guys, they had a great player from this area, and that single-handedly, he beat Miami by himself twice, where we had the game won. And then Dalvin Cook just said, no, I'm going to Dalvin Cook. Boom. So that's one example of having one of those top guys locally, how that had a positive impact for this team. That's the kind of change that you can have when you have these guys. But now instead of wearing garnet and gold or whatever color, they're wearing orange and green and staying home in Coral Gables.